Okay. Yep. Yep. Looks like it's kind of evened out, so I think we can start now if you'd like.
Okay, very good. Why don't we do that? So let me call to order this meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission for Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, during this declared state of emergency. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with California Government Code 54953E as authorized by resolution. Please contact City Clerk at mountainview.gov to obtain a copy of the applicable resolution. All members of the Parks and Recreation Commission will participate in the meeting by video conference with no physical meeting location. All right, so I've done the call to order, the roll call. Okay, let's be formal about this. Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Filios, Vice Chair Filios.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchner.
Here.
Commissioner Summer.
Here.
And Chair Bryant, I'm here too. We're all here. Excellent. Our first item on the agenda is minutes approval. We have minutes for December 14, 2022. Any questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to address us on our minutes? If there are, please raise your hand so that I know that you want to address us on the minutes. And seeing none, I'll bring this back to the PRC. A motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Commissioner Davis made a motion, seconds.
Second it,
I saw us.
third and fourth.
So we have a motion, it's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Sorry, can you confirm who actually seconded it?
I think all of us.
Commissioner Summer will say.
Okay, thank you.
We'll give Sandy the honor this time.
Woohoo.
All right. All right, let's vote on this motion. Let's go in reverse order. Commissioner Summer.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchner.
Yes.
Vice Chair Filios.
Yes,
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
And Chair Bryant, yes. So the motion passes unanimously. We'll move to item 4, which is oral communication from the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. State law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agenda items. And so I will now ask our attendees if they wish to address us on any non-agendized items. If you do, please raise your hand in Zoom. And seeing none, I will close item 4 and we will move on to item 5, new business. And our first item of new business is 5.1, Parkland Dedication Fund and Park-related projects mid-year update for fiscal year 2022-2023. And the recommendation is that the PRC receive a report and presentation. So this is maybe for our information. And I will pass it on to staff.
Thank you. Let me pull up my presentation. Let me make sure I pull up the right presentation because I have a couple tonight. Are you all seeing my screen with my slides?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. So good evening, commissioners. I'm Lindsay Wong, Senior Management Analyst for Community Services. So my first item tonight is going to be an update on the Parkland Fund and also an update on some Parkland related projects. So here's an overview of what we'll be reviewing tonight. First, I will just provide some background on the Parkland Dedication Fund, and then we'll also review the Parkland Ordinance. We'll look at planning areas, talk about actions from last year, and review the status of the fund now. And then we'll end by reviewing some various parks projects. So for some background, all the way back in fiscal year 17-18, the PRC did a review of our parkland acquisition strategy. And one of the outcomes of that review was the request to receive a mid-year update on the Parkland Dedication Fund. So this has been added as a recurring item each year to PRC. This item is just an update. We're not recommending to commit any funds at this time, and any commitments for parkland projects will be brought back to PRC in the spring. So want to talk about the ordinance a little bit to kind of explain what the Parkland Fund is and how it works. So the Parkland Ordinance is Chapter 41 of City Code and is governed by the Quimby Act, which is a state code. The ordinance requires that developers either dedicate parkland or provide in lieu fees in order to offset the impacts of new residential development on city parks. In addition to Chapter 41, we also have Council Policy K15, which prioritizes how the city uses those park funds. So the first priority is acquisition. Second is development of new parks and recreation facilities. And then the third priority is rehabilitation or renovation of existing parks and amenities. So parkland funds cannot be used for maintenance or operations. And when expending the funds, the first consideration is given to projects located within the same planning area that the funds were collected, and then within a 1 mile radius, and then to projects that have a citywide benefit. Additionally, fees need to be committed to a project within 5 years of collecting the fee. Often, if a fee is reaching that 5-year timeline, and if there's no relevant projects in that planning area to commit a fee to, then we will commit it to the future acquisition of parkland. Also, just want to remind the PRC that in 2021, the Parkland Ordinance was updated to include what we call the POPA credit, which is privately owned, publicly accessible credit. And it also included the update of using an appraiser to determine land valuations when calculating the parkland fees, which I think you heard more about in December from Angela LaMonica, our real property program manager. And then also the Parkland Ordinance will be reviewed as part of the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, which I'll talk about a little bit more on a later slide. So this is an overview of the different parks and open space planning areas. I know we've seen this many times, but we just show this to kind of help frame the presentation. This is from the 2014 Parks and Open Space Plan. So when looking at this, basically these kind of areas between El Camino and 101, the sort of middle planning areas in the city are currently below the city's goal of 3 acres per 1,000 residents, which I'll review more on the next slide. Those are the areas that we try to focus on acquiring more open space. And then Miramonte, Grant, and North Bayshore are above the 3 acres per 1,000 residents. And the 3 acres per 1,000 residents goal is determined by the Quimby Act. So here we can see more details on how we are meeting that 3 acre goal. So highlighted in red are the areas that have the lowest acreage per 1,000 residents. And this data is based on the 2010 census data. So we definitely want to look at this now that there is updated 2020 census population data. That will be part of the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan process. So our consultant will update these numbers with the new population data, and they also will review and confirm the total acreage of our existing sites. And they'll also be assessing how the city currently defines different types of open space throughout the city. So we're excited to be able to update this and provide more accurate numbers here in the future. And then additionally, we have a number of planned parks and recently acquired parkland that's not incorporated into this table. So again, these numbers, of course, change as we develop new parks. Now we will look at parkland commitments that have happened since the last update to PRC, which was in the spring. I want to note that the version of this presentation that was sent out prior to this meeting, it had an older commitment included here. So I've updated this to just show commitments that have happened again since the spring update to PRC. So first in fiscal year 21-22, the first few of these items were committed through the budget process last year. So we have the Evelyn Avenue mini park construction funds, Villa Street mini park construction, and then the pickleball preliminary study and design. And then we have the acquisition of open space in Central and Sterling planning areas. So this $14,400 was from 3 fees that were reaching that 5-year commitment deadline. And so we committed those funds to open space, future open space in those planning areas, because we didn't at the time have other projects to commit them to in those planning areas. And then the last one for fiscal year 21-22 is the acquisition of 711 Calderon Avenue to build a future park there. And then more recently in fiscal year 22-23, we have a couple of other commitments of funds for purchasing open space. So we have the acquisition of 909 San Rafael and 917 San Rafael in the Sterling planning area, and then the acquisition of 538 Thompson Avenue. So here we have current uncommitted funds. So since the last PRC presentation in May, we've received 4 fees totaling $26.6 million. But as I just reviewed, we also committed over $30 million in fees since then as well. So this is currently what's remaining in the Parkland Fund as uncommitted fees. Next, we have fees that have already been committed to land acquisition. So in the left is, again, our planning areas. The red ones are the lowest planning areas in terms of acreage per 1,000 residents. The yellow ones are also under 3 acres per 1,000 residents. So you can kind of see where our needs are. And then with that, I'm going to go into project updates so you can kind of see what we've actually been spending these funds on and the status of our current projects. So starting with completed projects since the last PRC update in May, first we have Mora Park, which opened in June 2022. This is a 0.45 acre park in the San Antonio planning area. And next we have Pyramid Park, which opened in August 2022. And this is a 2.76 acre park in the Wisman planning area. And this is a list of active projects that are currently funded through the Parkland Fund. So I'll kind of go through these quickly and just give you a status update. First is the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. We brought the scope of this project to PRC and Council in the last few months, and staff are currently going through the RFP process and expect to bring the agreement to Council for approval in mid-March. Next, we have the Ringstorff Park Aquatic Center. Hopefully you've all had a chance to stop by and take a look at the exciting construction that's happening there. That construction is expected to be finished by fall 2023, and we will be talking about aquatics a little bit more when we talk about the budget update in our next item. We also have Fayette Park, which is currently in construction. This is a 0.5 acre park in the San Antonio planning area, expected to be completed by summer 2023. Evelyn Park and Villa Street Park are both in the design phase, and construction for both of those we hope will be starting in spring of 2024. Pickleball feasibility study. So this we are expecting to have an RFP out by next month in order to hire a consultant for that feasibility study. Magical Bridge Playground construction should be starting for this project in late spring, early summer 2023. The construction contract for this project is combined with the Ringstorff Park maintenance and tennis building projects. So those will be starting at around the same time. The Sylvan Trellis projects, construction for these should be starting around February with estimated completion in fall 2023. Cuesta Fitness Court construction should start late spring 2023, early summer. And then the tennis court resurfacing construction should also be starting around the summer 2023. And one note is that these are just projects that are funded through the Parkland Fund. So we do have other projects going on in the department, just in case this wasn't enough. We also have Center for Performing Arts CIPs. We have a number of shoreline projects. So there's a lot of other projects that are going on as well. So this is a list of future projects that are on our radar, but we have not yet committed funding to these projects. The first is the Callahan Field lighting upgrade. This is actually scheduled for fiscal year 23-24. So this would be a project that we would come back and ask PRC to commit funds to. We also have the turf replacement at Crittenden. Future Park at 355 Middlefield. This is in the Wisman planning area. That's currently projected at 0.37 acres. A future park at 555 Middlefield in the Sterling planning area. That's projected at 1.34 acres. And then we have the LASD school site project. So this is a future school site. That's what's pictured here on this slide, that area. This is a future school site. We will have joint use open space at the school site. And then next to it will be what we've been calling the California Showers Park, which will be a dedicated city park. So currently we've been in discussion with the school district and we're in the master planning process for the site. Next, we have all of the recent parkland acquisitions that I mentioned. So 711 Calderon, 909 to 917 San Rafael, 358 Thompson. Those are all going to be future park sites, which is really exciting. We will have to go through the 5-year CIP process to schedule them and determine when we will build those future park sites. But again, it's very exciting that we were able to acquire those properties. And then lastly, I just want to mention the Google master plan proposals. So first is the Middlefield Park master plan, which was approved in November by council. And that is, with that plan, there's almost 7 acres of public park, city parkland, and there is over 2.5 acres of POPA as well. And then in addition to that master plan, there's also the Google North Bayshore master plan, which is still going through the approval process and should be brought to council later this year. And there's a significant amount of parks and open space associated with that plan as well. So that is the end of my presentation. Again, tonight was just an update to PRC, so we're not actually requesting to commit any funds tonight, just providing an update, but I am happy to answer any questions.
So why don't we do a first round of PRC questions, and I'll open it up to the public, and then we can come back to the PRC for any final questions. Commissioners, anyone want to ask a question? Yes, Commissioner Mitchell.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just a quick question. And maybe this might even be more for Mr. Marchant. Can you remind me, the pickleball feasibility study, how does the timing of that interplay with the end of the 6-month or whatever the trial period is at Ringstorff? Are they going to be completed somewhat simultaneously, or anyway, that would be my question.
So good question. The pickleball feasibility study, due to the timing of us getting a contractor out to actually get the striping done and completed, as well as the delay with the rain that we've had and hopefully some more rain on the way. Staff is looking to postpone the end of the the short-term pickleball program and actually extend it until early fall. And so hopefully those two programs will be coming somewhat close together at the same time. So we will be extending the trial period into the fall. That gives us an entire summer to see how the use actually is, and be able to do some surveys, continue to do that, and then be able to look at what the new project is going to be bringing forward. So hopefully those two do come together somewhat close together.
Commissioner Summer.
Yeah, I had a question about the map and the table. The map shows in the central planning area, some green slivers along Shoreline Boulevard, which I assume correspond to the Latham Community Garden and the other kind of undeveloped, sides of Shoreline Boulevard. But they didn't seem to be included in the tally. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so I'm assuming that kind of falls under the category that you mentioned, that through the new work, we'll be looking at what counts and what doesn't. And okay, great. Then my other question had to do, in the table, you identified the 4 lowest ratios, but it seemed like central neighborhood belonged in that as well, because at least the table showed it as 2.3, which is actually lower than some of
Yes,
the others.
good catch. Yes, that
Okay.
is just an oversight on our part. But yes,
Okay.
Central is
right.
also one of
I was
those.
kind of surprised by that, but I think it's, there's a lot of small park sites in central neighborhood, but maybe there's just no large ones. That was my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Well, I feel smart because Commissioner Summers' comments were exactly the ones that I was picking up on. I love maps and I was focusing in on some of the details. So I had very similar questions to that. And also noting some irregularities, like the Willow Gate is color coded one way, but the Latham Street is not color coded the same way for community. Anyway, minor details, but it leads me to, I guess, a question perhaps for Director Marchant. Understanding that the consultant for the strategic plan process is going to be assessing how the city delineates the different types of open space and how those are going to be calculated in conjunction with updating for the 2020 census. I guess my question is, how do you anticipate bringing the strategic plan to the PRC? And could I suggest or request or make a motion that we get a briefing specifically on the consultant's recommendations for delineating the park types and calculation methodologies?
Absolutely. And we do anticipate, as we've been interviewing the different consultants that have submitted and that we are reviewing currently, those are some of the questions that we were asking, is how do they go about that? And then how do we bring the list of tasks that we've reviewed previously and bring that back to the PRC, as well as how do we bring pieces of what would be the draft document to the PRC over time. And so we are working on that. The consultants do have a process to do that. And similar to construction plans, it's my understanding and what we've been told is there's opportunities at different percentages of that plan coming forward. So you'll be seeing the different chapters as well as the tasks coming to you over time, rather than a big brain dump all at one time. So the idea is to bring you bits and pieces as we move forward, as well as get that public information, public dialogue, public input, as well as some of the data, and then some of the work from the consultant coming forward. So that is the intent, that you will be receiving those pieces as we go along and not all at one time.
Vice Chair Filius.
It is just really minor. On the attachment number 1 in the grant area, it lists Huff School and Park, and I believe it has a new name. It is no longer Huff. So I just wanted to bring that as we go forward.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, we will definitely update that.
All right, so most of my comments have already been made. Just to kind of reinforce what Commissioner Davis said, that the question of what we count as parkland, I know is very much a matter of concern to the community and to us also commissioners. So that's kind of an infrastructure for the plan. So that needs to be hashed out before we can move forward. And something else that I kind of became curious about, looking at all the pots of money that we have for parkland acquisition. And there are certain areas where we have a lot of money sitting there. And obviously we have great needs in all the neighborhoods, some more than others, but needs everywhere. At some stage, I'd be interested in hearing how proactive we can be. And I know that staff has done some cold calling basically to ask people if they would sell property. But when you have a neighborhood where we just have millions and millions, how proactive can we be to try to find a way forward to spend the money, get the land? So that may be part of the strategic plan, but that is something I'm sure we are all very interested in.
Yes, that is something that we will discuss as part of the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. And going back to Angela LaMonica's presentation in December, we have had some success, as you stated, Commissioner Bryant, through looking at a map, just looking at opportunities that we see exist on a map and say, let's reach out to that property owner. That's how we ended up with the properties on San Rafael. Those were not listed for sale, but we basically looked at the map overall, looked for a location in that planning area, and were successful. So we will continue to do that in those areas that are deficient. And then we'll also be able to talk about maybe some new ways that the consultant may be able to identify through the new plan.
Great, wonderful. So I think we have all had a turn to make comments and ask questions. I'll turn to the public. If any member of the public wishes to address us on the information we have received, please do so now. Raise your hand if you want to address us. And seeing none, I will bring this back to the PRC. No, we do have an attendee. Ms. Bright, if you wish to address us on this issue, please do so.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up a question about the Thompson house that was purchased. And then I think initially there were 2 houses that were for sale, and they were going to attempt to purchase both of them to make a park there, combine it with Thetis Park. But I don't know what happened about the second house. And I wondered, the slide was a little bit quick for me since I don't usually look at them, whether there was still monies available in the Montaloma area to purchase another house. Because that was the original goal, I think.
Thank you. And I will ask staff. Other members of the public have asked me the same question. So if staff can perhaps answer that question.
So I can confirm that the city did purchase the the one address that Lindsay had put up on the screen. I really can't speak to any other properties that we have purchased since then. We continue to look for opportunities in the Thompson area as well as other areas of town, but I don't have anything to report specifically related to the Thompson area at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And since I don't see any other hands raised from attendees, I will come back to the PRC. Do we have any further comments, questions for staff? Seeing, yes, we do. Commissioner Summer.
Just wanted to thank staff for this update. I think it really helps the commission and it helps the public to see where things stand and how the funds are accumulating, because obviously with a lot of residential development going on in the city, things are changing pretty fast. So I know it's a fair bit of work to assemble this all in the mid-year timeframe, but it's very greatly appreciated, and I feel supportive of everything that I'm seeing here.
And Vice Chair Filius. You've just muted yourself.
There we go. I'm sorry. First time, I guess, huh? I too wanted to thank Lindsay. Great report. I mean, you know, those of us who've been on the commission for a while have seen similar type reports, but this one is very good for the public to see, in the fact that you covered all the bases on how we got where we are. And so thank you very much for a very thorough report, and I appreciate your efforts.
Yes, here. A lot of information, and I'm very impressed with how hard staff is working. I don't have to tell staff how hard they're working, but thank you for all that work, and we're seeing results. All right, let's close this item and move on to the next item, which is 5.2, Community Services Department proposed budget request for fiscal 23-24. And here again, we're just reviewing and providing input. Mr. Marchand, is that you, or is it you again, Lindsay?
I will turn it over to Lindsay once again.
Me again. Pull up the second presentation. Okay. Hold on one second. Are you all seeing my screen? Okay, great. Okay, so now we will be talking about the Community Services Department's operating budget, including an overview of the current fiscal year as well as next fiscal year's budget requests. So just to go over the budget process at a high level, this is a typical timeline for the budget process. So as a department, we submit our requests along with every other city department to the budget review team in December. And then we come to PRC in January to review our requests and get feedback. In February, the mid-year budget update, also called the Q2 budget update, is brought to council. That includes an update on the current fiscal year and projections through the end of the year. In February, it's not on this slide, but in February, we also, as department staff, have a budget meeting with the finance department and the city manager, and that is when we bring feedback from PRC to that discussion. In April, there is the Q3 update to council, and then we return to PRC in the spring, usually around May, to provide an update on our budget requests. The recommended budget, previously called the proposed budget, goes to council in June, and then the adopted budget also will go in June, and there's a second and final hearing for the following year's budget. This is just a snapshot of the current fiscal year's budget citywide as compared to last fiscal year. And again, the mid-year report, which will be published in February and brought to council, will provide the first kind of summary of this year's adjusted budget and will provide a forecast through the rest of the year. As you can see on this slide, city revenues have increased as the city continues to bounce back from COVID impacts. And then this is an overview of CSD's operating budget for the current fiscal year. This is showing expenditures by division. So a couple of notes here. Parks is the highest budget because of water usage and park maintenance. Another note, the shoreline division is funded out of the shoreline fund, while the rest of these are general funded. Golf and restaurant are funded by money out of the general fund. So we take it out of the general fund, we put it into the golf and restaurant sub-fund for the year. And then at the end of the year, we anticipate them to exceed revenues, and then we return that revenue back to the general fund. And then currently the department is tracking slightly under budget overall this fiscal year, largely due to salary savings. Here we have a snapshot of the department's revenues. So this is budgeted revenue for the fiscal year and not necessarily what we actually are bringing in. With that being said, this year we are tracking on target for department revenues. A note that recreation continues to exceed revenues from the last couple of years, and actually we're even seeing pre-pandemic revenue numbers, which is great. Golf also had a great year last year in terms of revenue, and golf and restaurant continue to be strong this year. Although of course we'll continue to monitor impacts from the rainy season there. And then parks and forestry receive small amounts of revenue. That's mostly for reimbursements of various maintenance contracts. And now I'm going to dive into our budget requests that we are proposing for next fiscal year. So first we have non-discretionary requests. So these are usually tied to contractual increases or things that are seen as necessities in order to continue existing operations. So first, we are requesting an increase to the ActiveNet contract. So ActiveNet is the department's registration software system. So we use this to register people for classes and programs. We use it as point of sale system, and it's also used to reserve facilities. So it's used in both recreation and shoreline divisions. So ActiveNet charges us transaction fees, and typically this fee increases by a few percent annually. So we have seen these fees increase for the past few years, but we have been absorbing the cost. This wasn't really a huge issue during the pandemic because our total number of transactions were lower. However, now we are at a point where we need to request funds to catch up to those annual increases. And then this amount that we're requesting also builds in a small contingency for the next couple of years so that we ideally don't have to request to increase this every year. And then the second request is just a small amount that we are requesting related to the citywide office assistant classification. So this is more of sort of a technical adjustment in the budget that just needs to happen. Basically in fiscal year 22-23, the city reclassified the Office Assistant 1 and Office Assistant 2 classifications in order to create just one Office Assistant position. And then associated with that was an increased pay range. So this impacted a few of our current Office Assistant staff. We're just requesting this small amount to align the budget with that new pay range. So next is discretionary requests. So these are significant change requests that are ongoing and not considered necessary to continue current operations, but are still of high priority for the department and allow us to kind of expand our programming. This does not include performing arts division requests or golf budget requests, as they have separate advisory bodies. So the first request is for gopher control at parks. This was actually funded this current fiscal year as a pilot program at Cuesta Park. So prior to this current fiscal year, we've kind of absorbed the costs, but now we have funding for this one fiscal year to hire a contractor for this, but we are requesting ongoing funds and additional funds to continue at Cuesta and to expand to other parks. So we do receive a lot of concerns about the gopher issue at Cuesta and other parks, and we have found that the current contractor that we've been using has helped to alleviate this issue. So we'd like to continue this. Next is a request for additional funds for special events and for the multicultural festival. So the department has really increased the scope and scale of our special events, especially after the pandemic. We've seen a huge demand for special events and a huge turnout at these events in the last couple of years. Hopefully you've all attended Monster Bash and tree lighting and seen that these have kind of become huge events, and we have thousands of people at these, which is very exciting. It's something that the department loves to do. And again, we want to continue to kind of expand those offerings. So the funds would help us expand that. And then also these are funds to make the multicultural festival an ongoing event. So previously, or currently, this event is just every other year in the spring. We held this event last year in fiscal year 21-22. And then if approved, this event would happen annually starting in 23-24. And then last, we have the Ringstorf Park Aquatic Center request, which is a big one. So we're going to go into that on the next slide. Okay. So the Ringstorf Park Aquatic Center, as I mentioned, it's currently under construction and should be completed in fall 2023. For more background, the new Ringstorf Park Aquatic Center is a larger facility. There's 300,000 gallons more water than the previous Ringstorf pools. It'll feature a state-of-the-art all-electric system. The larger pools will allow us to do more concurrent public programming, and staff plan to have the new facility open year-round. So previously, Ringstorf Pool did not have much demand for public programming year-round since it was an aging facility and there were some limitations. But the new facility gives us an opportunity to expand programming and sort of shift Eagle Park Pool to be primarily used by the swim teams and pool rentals year-round with some seasonal programming there as well. So our request includes additional staffing required for expanded programming. So this includes a full-time recreation coordinator. So this position would assist the current senior recreation coordinator in supervising hourly staff, overseeing the facilities, and implementing aquatics programs. Other program areas in the division have this sort of staffing structure with a senior rec coordinator and a full-time recreation coordinator. So this kind of aligns with those other program models. And also due to the nature of aquatics programming, the safety concerns, the level of supervision required, the hours of the pools, we feel that it's really necessary to have this level of oversight. The next personnel services request is for an hourly laborer for maintenance. So currently maintenance for both pools is led by a park maintenance worker 3. This person makes sure that the pool mechanics are working, that the chemicals are balanced, and that the facility is maintained up to the CDC's Model Aquatic Health Code. So we are recommending an additional staff to assist with maintenance given the larger facility and the needs of the new pools. So this person would help with maintenance, they would help during off hours and assist with emergencies. And then lastly, for personnel, we're also requesting additional hours for other hourly staff positions such as lifeguards and pool attendants. Again, given the larger size of the facilities, additional staff are needed to ensure that we have appropriate supervision at all times. And then non-personnel services includes utilities. So these costs include the electricity and water for the larger facility, operation of building and pools. This includes chemicals, mechanical equipment, and other facility operations equipment needed to safely operate the pool. And then other supplies are things like program supplies, safety and first aid supplies, training expenses, clothing and laundry expenses for lifeguards, and just kind of other miscellaneous supplies and materials. And then in this table, we've also included some offsets to offset that total expense. So first, we are recognizing a significant amount of additional revenue. So firstly, this is due to the fact that the current adopted revenue only includes Eagle Park Pool as Ringstorf has been closed. And then secondly, we're also proposing to increase some fees, which I'll cover on a later slide. including fee modifications to land back and master's facility use. And then we're also proposing a wages offset. So, excuse me, as a department, we break out our hourly wages budget into different program areas, and we typically end the year with a positive balance in some program areas throughout the department. And we essentially have savings in that wages line. So we're proposing to move around those unused wages savings and put them towards this request, which would not impact those other program areas. So this is a summary of the department's requests this fiscal year. This year, the amount of requests is fewer than we've had in previous years, but again, you can see the totals here, and a large part of that is due to the aquatics request. And then I'll discuss fee modifications. So the first is aquatics fee modifications. You would have seen in the attachment to tonight's report that we included details on all of the fee changes for aquatics, but I'll just go over kind of a summary of the most significant changes. So the first is an increase to swim lesson fees. So staff completed a benchmarking survey of surrounding agencies and found that our swim lesson fees were significantly lower. So given the opening of this brand new facility, we feel that this is the appropriate time to increase those fees to better align with those other agencies. There's also proposed increases to pool rental fees to cover the increased wages for lifeguards since minimum wage has gone up. And then we're also creating separate rental fees for Eagle and Ringstorf, given the kind of different nature of the facilities now. And then we're also updating the masters and land back facility use fees, which has already been discussed with those agencies as well. So they've been made aware of those proposed changes. And then lastly, we're also proposing a new fee to rent the multi-purpose room that will be at the new Ringstorf facility. And then we're also proposing an option to do a full rental of the facility, which would include both pools and the multi-purpose room, as well as party rental package fees. And then aside from aquatics, we're also proposing an increase to tennis fees. So the tennis center operator, Mountain View Tennis, as well as staff, recommend an increase to fees for Cuesta court reservations and Cuesta court lessons in order to offset increased wage costs. So next step for CSD, again in February, we will meet with the finance department and the city manager to discuss our requests and provide any feedback that we hear from PRC tonight. And kind of determine which requests will move forward to council. So that is my presentation, and I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you very much. And I see that Commissioner Mitchell already has a question.
Yeah, so my question had to do with the swimming fees. And first of all, I just want to say I think it's great that you've already reached out to the master's program and to Lamback. I think it's a nice touch to speak with big users ahead of time and not necessarily spring it on them at a meeting. I was wondering, do you know which other agencies you used as for benchmarking the fees? You know, for example, did you look at Palo Alto? Which were the other agencies that you used?
So I can pull that up if you give me a sec, but we also have our recreation manager, Christine Crosby, here. Not to put you on the spot, Christine, but I don't know if you already know that off the top of your head.
I am ready for this question. Thank you for it. So we did complete benchmarking of surrounding agencies, and the agencies in which we received information on was Campbell, South San Francisco, Watsonville, Milpitas, Santa Clara, Dublin, Sunnyvale, San Ramon, Burlingame, San Mateo, and Los Gatos, Saratoga. We reached out to those that were municipalities that operated their own aquatic facilities. Palo Alto, which you had mentioned, does utilize an operator who oversees their aquatic programs and may have a little bit more flexibility on their pricing. But those were the agencies that we benchmarked with.
Vice Chair Philios.
Going back to the request on personnel for the pool, with regards to it, how does it differ than the personnel we had when we had both pools open in previous years? In terms of it, I understand certainly the person doing the chemicals and the cleaning the deck and all that good stuff. That's a daily chore. There's no doubt about it. I just didn't the other title. I'm sorry. I think it was like a senior recreation person or something like that. How does that differ than in the past when we had both pools open?
So the senior recreation coordinator oversees currently both pool facilities, which right now, and let's just pretend Rangstar Park Pool is open. We would be doing full year-round programming at Eagle Park Pool and then seasonal programming at Rangstar Park Pool, typically April through August. The senior recreation coordinator is not only responsible for the general operation and implementation of these programs, but also for the oversight of 50 aquatic hourly employees all the way up to possibly 100 during the summer seasons, which you can imagine that is a large number of personnel to be reporting to one individual. And so we have noticed over the past years with the folks that have held this position of senior recreation coordinator that there is a lot to do. And for overseeing two facilities, it could create a lot of burnout, especially when you have facilities that have aging infrastructure that require a lot of emergency mechanical work and a lot of public engagement with aquatics. And we do have other facilities and program areas that do have the recreation coordinator and senior recreation coordinator model. And so moving forward with a larger facility, adding facility rentals as part of the new facility, which we did not previously have, and looking at opportunities to expand programming, we felt that this was the time to make the request for a full-time recreation coordinator to support the senior recreation coordinator position. We feel that this will not only be able to allow us to expand programming, but also create more balance between the position and look for opportunities to reduce burnout, manage our workload better, and be able to serve our aquatic community the best that we can.
Thank you very much. And I also want to compliment you on looking out for the lifeguards. We don't want to be losing lifeguards to other entities, and they're hard to come by, I know. So well done.
Thanks.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. My question's about the ActiveNet registration system, which is we're seeking a fee increase for. If I understand correctly, ActiveNet, the fee for ActiveNet is about $131,000 and covers registrations for classes, camps, and facility registrations. My question is, what is the total dollar amount of the registration fees? If that's a coherent question.
You kind of fade off at then total dollar amount of
For the registration, how much registration fees are processed through ActiveNet?
I do not have the exact number off the top of my head, but if I had to give you my very best educated guess, I would say the majority of our recreation registration, facility reservations, and revenue all are processed through ActiveNet, including if we were to receive sponsorship revenue, if we receive, for example, Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space supports Deer Hollow Farm and provides a dollar amount that gets put into our revenue. We enter those through a different module to be able to account for all of our revenue within one system. So it's a very comprehensive system that we use, and we utilize it for essentially every program area in recreation.
I think I saw in a prior slide that Lindsay was showing about 2.3 million of revenue in the recreation department. So if I did the math right, that's something like 5 or 6% of those fees are going towards the registration system. I'm not sure if that's a good number or not, but it begs the question. Did you do due diligence on alternative registration systems, or are there really unique attributes or benefits to ActiveNet that make it a sole choice?
It is probably one of the more robust software systems out there that can support both registration as well as a reservation system. In addition, it does have a membership process and point of sale. There are other products out there in the market, but from my understanding, some of them could be really strong in registration, but not so great in facility reservations, or vice versa, facility reservations and registration not so great. ActiveNet is one of those products that is a good happy medium and is able to serve all of our uses. We have been utilizing ActiveNet for about 9 years, I believe. And it's been a great system to utilize so far. And I do anticipate in the next few years, we may want to just see what else is out there, just to see if there's something that is better than this product. But so far it's been meeting the needs of the city.
Okay, thanks, Christy.
Vice Filius.
Just to follow up on Commissioner Davis's question, does ActiveNet, is it like Ticketmaster or GoFan or those other services where they also charge the registration person in order to do their registration? Is there a fee that goes along with it, or does the fee all go towards the city for having the software program?
It could go either way. So ActiveNet, we could, as an agency, decide to put the fee on the customer, and you would see it as a line item when you're making a transaction, a processing fee, a transaction fee, similar like you would see at Ticketmaster and such. When we move forward with making the transition from our previous system to ActiveNet, the city made the decision to absorb those fees. And some of our fees may have been slightly increased through the master fee schedule process to cover those fees, but we do not charge at this time a direct transaction fee to the customer. But there is an option if we wanted to.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, Commissioner Summer, I don't see your hand. Yeah, there it is. It is raised now. All right, go on.
Thank you. This is a kind of like, it's a question, but I don't really need the answer in that it's extremely detailed. But looking at this, the aquatics fees, I see so much redundancy. I can't quite figure it out. And so, this is where my question turns into a comment. Since this is public facing, maybe it could be organized in a way that helps people understand what the difference between all the different things are. It's hard to follow. Maybe it's just because the pools, the Ringstorf Aquatic Center is not open, and I don't know the difference between the lap pool and the rec pool and the pool facility and the multipurpose room and the party package and all this stuff, but it's very complicated. I think a citizen would have trouble understanding it. So that's all I really just wanted to say. Thanks.
And I had a question about the rental of the whole facility. How you would manage that, given the fact that obviously one wants to have the facility open to the public for as much programming as possible, and you're obviously increasing that. So what would you define as times when the whole facility could be rented by someone?
Sure, thank you for the question. So we anticipate that the facility could have operational hours of 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Would programming take place during that entire time back to back? No, we do need to have time for downtime for the pool. We need time for our maintenance staff to get in there to do their annual and daily work. As far as a full pool rental that includes the full facility, we anticipate that those will be mainly utilized for swim meets, where the whole facility would be taken over and they would need access to the multi-purpose room and both pools for the operation of that meet. From my understanding at this current time, both Mountain View Masters and the Los Altos Mountain View Aquatics Club may host between 1 to 2 meets a year. And I think we've been more on one meet a year in the most recent years, especially since the pandemic. And so I could anticipate with a lot of notice in advance that we could be looking at 2 to 4 times a year that the pool would be utilized for a swim meet. We would only rent a full pool rental outside of the swim meet during times when there are not programs. So if we have a scheduled program such as lap swim already taking place and someone wanted to rent the pool during that time, we would not be kicking out lap swim to rent the pool to a private user unless there's, you know, extenuating circumstances. So that we put in that fee just so we have that option and to have that flexibility. But essentially, we don't really feel it will be utilized frequently. We do believe that Rangsdorf Park Aquatic Center will heavily be utilized for public programs, especially since we're moving our lap swim program, which is our highest utilized program, to this facility. And we feel that with the 2 pools and having such larger bodies of water, the concurrent programming is going to be really key for us, where we could have lap swim taking place in the lap pool and be able to do swim lessons in the recreation pool. We have not been able to fully do this. And so it's really exciting to have that opportunity. And we're looking to see what else can we do to provide to the community. There's a lot of creative ideas out there, but we want to bring over our standard programming first and then see where we can build upon after that.
And I'm assuming, I mean, that was very satisfactory, your answer. I'm assuming, like, if there's a swim meet, you could open the other swimming pool for the public to use, so the public isn't shut out of the swimming pool.
Yes, that's a very good point. With utilizing both pools year round, we can make that transition from one pool to the other with minimal impact or notice. Whereas right now, if Rangsdorf Park pools are seasonal and it is in a lower state where we're using less chemicals, the heat is turned down, to activate that pool to be ready for the public could take more than 1 day. So being able to have both pools open, we could make that move quite quickly for our programs.
Great. Looking forward to seeing what all you do with the 2 pools.
Thanks.
I see no hands raised from the PRC, so I'll open it up to the public if they wish to address us on these issues. And members of the public, if you wish to address us, raise your hand so I know. Yes, Martha Branch.
Mute. Hi, thank you so much for taking time for this meeting. And I just wanted to say that I'm a member of Mountain View Masters swim team, and we've been in Mountain View for 30+ years. Super excited about the new facility and have so much enjoyed working with the the aquatics team that you have on staff, and look forward to more years ahead with lots more swimming water. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Ms. Bright, you wish to address us on this issue? Go on ahead. You could unmute yourself.
I'm really excited about the Rangsdorf pool, and sounds really like it's going to be fabulous. But I'm a little bit worried, will lower income people still be able to afford it because the fees are going up? I don't know I don't know what the fees are currently, so I don't, but that was my only question.
Thank you. And then we will get it answered for you. I see no further hands raised from the public. Maybe staff could explain about our fees and the help for lower income families.
Sure, thank you for the question. So to address the lower income family part first, the city does have a very robust financial assistance program that families could qualify for their youth. They work through the community services agency, and once qualified, we are notified if they fit into one of the two programs that we have. So one of the programs is if you are considered low income, you receive a 75% subsidy up to $400 per child within your family. If you are qualified for very low income or extremely low income, you then qualify for a 90% subsidy up to $500 per child within your family. It's a very well utilized program, and we have a lot of contact with our financial assistance program families throughout the year. And one of the things that we will be looking at reviewing through the Parks and Recreation strategic plan process is our financial assistance program still meeting the needs of our community, or shall we look at opportunities for improvement? So that is going to be looked at as we go through that process. But the financial assistance program does qualify for all youth programs, including swim lessons. And then to answer the second part of the question, to put things in perspective of what our current fees are, our swim lessons are typically half hour, and the half hour rate at this very moment for a resident is $8.25. What we are proposing is for a half hour, it would be $10 for that half hour. So it's a very minor increase. When we did our benchmarking survey, a lot of the surrounding agencies, their resident rate was $12 all the way up to $25. And we felt that having this, less than $2 increase, $1.75 increase per half hour would help bridge that gap in cost recovery while also making a minimal impact to our residents.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby.
Thank you. That sounds so wonderful that you provide all these assistance for so many people. Because you know, I think there are a lot of lower income people who live in that general area. So that's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. And I'll bring it back to the PRC for any additional comments that you'd like to make. Seeing none, I will say thank you to staff for this presentation. And let's move on to the next one, which is item 5.3, Community Services Department Master Plan Updates, which is again, all we are going to do is receiving an update from staff. And Director Marchand, I assume that's you.
Good evening once again, John Marchand, Community Services Director. Just a brief few updates this month. Number one, the Shoreline Wildlife Management Plan is scheduled to come before you next month. And the meeting has been moved to February 15th in order to accommodate our consultant team so that they can be in person and provide information to you and to the public regarding the process and where we've been, and a look at the plan. And again, an opportunity for both the public and the commission to provide input. And I will allow Assistant Director Brenda Sylvie to talk briefly about our presentation next month for the Biodiversity and Urban Forest Plan.
Great. Good evening, commissioners. We've been busy behind the scenes. The city selected a company called Dudek to serve as our community outreach and engagement consultant for the Biodiversity Strategy and Urban Forest Plan. Dudek's references were impressive, and mentions of their environmental knowledge and experience and their effective community outreach and public engagement methods really sold us. The team that reviewed the RFPs all agreed 100%. So staff is working on the agreement right now with Dudek, and we plan to officially onboard them in February. In the meantime, SFEI is busy doing their research and policy and precedent review for the city, and we will be bringing their findings to you in February. If we can have Dudek on board and they're able to attend, we will have them also attend with SFEI as kind of an introduction of our consultant team for the Biodiversity Strategy and Urban Forest Plan in February. So stay tuned.
Wonderful, thank you.
And I am going to turn it back over to Recreation Manager Christine Crosby to talk about the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. We've talked a lot about it tonight and some of the elements that are in there. So just a high level overview, please.
Yes, no problem. Yeah, and I was taking some notes in your earlier items, so appreciate the comments. So since we last shared an update, we have been reviewing the proposals that we have received, and we recently completed interviews last week with the proposers. And so we are finishing up our evaluation and our rating process. We hope to be moving into reference checks and the rest of the purchasing next steps within the next month. Because this the agreement for consulting services will be over 100,000. It does require city council authorization, which we hope to bring to the council early this spring. So we will keep you up to date when that gets scheduled.
Thank you.
And that is our update for this evening. So next month, you'll be seeing 2 out of the 3 plans coming forward with some additional information. So we're looking forward to bringing that in front of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments? Yes, Vice Chair Filius.
I just wanted to clarify one thing that was in the community service monthly report, and that was the regarding the rollaway pickleball nets and the term rent. And I actually talked to John. I'll be honest, I did talk to John about that, and I wasn't sure whether that was the appropriate term in the fact that that the way I understand it's more of a checkout procedure as opposed to a rental procedure. So I just wanted to bring that up publicly for anybody that read the report, and just Christina or Jonathan, if you want to talk to it, whatever.
I will turn it over to Christine to provide a comment there. Thanks.
Oh, like a John or me? So thank you for the comment and the question. So you're correct in that using the terminology rent would not be the best suited for this function. We have the three nets that are currently out at the court that are on casters that are easy for someone to roll to the court that they'd like to utilize. And since we have 6 courts, we have 3 additional portable nets that are here at the community center that someone could check out. There is no fee associated with it. We'd ask for them to leave their ID with us so that we just know who took it and hope that they come back to get their ID. Since we started the pilot program, although yes, we've been faced with a lot of rain, we have not seen anyone come to the community center to check out one of those nets. But the 3 nets that are currently out in the court have been utilized, and we have noticed that some folks have brought their own nets. They've become accustomed to bringing nets since one of the dedicated courts does not have a net. And so I think some folks already have it, and it might be more faster for them to bring it from their car straight to the court versus to the community center.
Any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I will ask our attendees if they are interested in making any comments on this update. If you are interested, please raise your hand. And I don't see any hands raised. So I'll bring it back to the PRC. Any comments now on this update? Seeing none, I'll just say that I'm sure we are all eagerly waiting to look at these plans and work with staff on them and comment. So thank you for that. So we will close item 5.3 and move on to item 5.4, election of officers. And it's our job now to nominate and elect a chairperson and a vice chairperson for the PRC. And Commissioner Mitchell.
So I'll make the same lead in as I did last year at this time. I'm a proponent of the sequential rotation of the chair and vice chair positions. I think it takes the politics out of things, and also takes out any personal feelings and allows everyone the opportunity to take their turn. I also think that it's consistent with how Mountain View City Council generally does things and how also other city commissions typically operate. Before I make my nomination, I want to thank Commissioner Bryant for a wonderful year as a leader, and maybe we'll have more time to thank her as well. But you did a terrific job, and anyway, excellent work. With all that said, I would like to nominate Vice Chair Commissioner Filios as the chair for the upcoming year, and Commissioner Summer as the vice chair.
And I would like to second that nomination.
Perfect. So we have a motion and we have a second. I probably should open it up to the public before we move on to vote. So let me do that. Okay, so we have 3 members of the public present. If you wish to address us on the election of a chair and vice chair for the PRC, please do so now by raising your hand. And I don't see any hands raised, so I'll bring it back to the PRC. Any other, let's see, pretty much everyone spoke except for Steve and me. So, just like Commissioner Mitchner, I think that our usual way of electing our chairs and vice chairs by rotation has always worked really well for us. Any one of us would be great as the chair of the PRC, and at this point, it's Steve. So I am happy to start the roll call for the voting unless anyone else wants to. Okay, so let's vote Commissioner Summer. So we're voting both for chair and vice chair at the same time. Is that a problem? Should we do them separate? What does staff think?
That is okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, so where was I? Commissioner Summer, yes.
The slate as I.
Excellent. Commissioner Mitchner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Filios,
Yes.
and Commissioner Davis.
I was really looking forward to 15 rounds of voting on our leadership. That doesn't look like we're going to do it, so I'll just vote yes.
And Chair Bryant, absolutely yes. Great. Congratulations to Steve and Sandy. And with that, Steve, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. And I want to be, although Joe has already indicated it, I want to second what he said. Commissioner Bryant, you have been great. Handling these meetings on Zoom, respecting the opinion and welcoming the public so openly for their input that has helped us along the way. And certainly your passion for so many of the causes that we're all championing, if that's a word, moving forward in these plans that are going to be on our plate over the next year. So thank you so much for setting a great tone and for your leadership over this past year.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronit.
You're most welcome. And Steve, you can finish the meeting.
All right. Are there any other comments from the other commissioners? If not, then we'll go on to commission staff announcements, updates, requests, and committee reports. Mr. Marchant, is that you?
I can start, but this time I'm going to turn it over. This is my evening of turning it over to staff. I like this. I will start with Assistant Community Services. Brenda Sylvia, she's going to talk a little bit about what's been going on during the storms and some other efforts in the parks, forestry, and in other areas. So please, Brenda, take it away.
Yes, good evening again. Our Parks and Forestry crews have been very busy with storm preparedness, triage, and cleanup. CSD works very closely with other departments, including Public Works, Fire, Police, to ensure that emergency staff coverage is in place and that reporting and safety protocols are followed. We also relied on our tree contractor, WCA, to help us out. Some of the storm damage included 22 tree failures. Some were private trees falling in the public right of way. We had 16 trees with significant broken limbs. We had trail closures due to flooding, including Permanente Creek Trail at the underpass at Amphitheater Parkway and Stevens Creek Trail at the underpass at 101 Freeway. And we had a block drain on Highway 85 near Middlefield Road, and this required some lane closures from Caltrans and city response to clear the drain along Stevens Creek. Parks and Forestry staff are continuing to clean up and address damage that was caused by the storm. We have an incredible, hardworking crew, and they just really all banded together, and we weathered the storm. So,
Brenda, if I can just jump in on that, I want the commission to know that we received several emails during the storms from residents thanking staff for all of their efforts on the fly decision making. We give our staff authority during this time to make some decisions in the field to benefit the community. And so really it was appreciated. It was nice to be able to share those positive comments from the community that is weathering a storm with us. So just wanted to share the good news that we were hearing from the community overall.
yeah, thank you, John. It was really all hands on deck. And so, like I said, amazing team. Canopy has organized a tree walk in Mountain View on Saturday, February 11th from 10 to noon at Mariposa Park. The tree walk will be led by certified arborist Molly, I'm going to screw up her last name, Bachelder. I hope that's right. And will be a themed walk based on the book, The Body Language of Trees. We're going to be promoting the walk through social media. It's on our city website calendar and Canopy's website. So to join the walk, you can register at Canopy's website at canopy.org. You'll be seeing more information about that as we tighten things up and get the word out. And Canopy is working with the Teen Center, Senior Center, and the library to schedule forestry workshops and an adapted forestry school at those locations in the spring. For Shoreline, we had the 12 days of Shoreline Media Campaign, which wrapped in December. The campaign featured news releases, social media posts, and videos about Shoreline and was designed to be educational and entertaining. Hope you guys had a chance to see it. I always look forward to it each day. It was fun to see and very clever. At the Sailing Lake Erosion and Dock Replacement Project, construction schedule has been delayed by at least 10 days due to the weather. The majority of erosion work is expected to be performed and completed next week, January 23rd through the 27th. And while that work is being completed, the contractor will be installing a culvert dam around the kayak launch area to keep it dry. Once the culvert dam and erosion work is complete, the lake can begin being refilled. And those are my updates for this evening.
Thank you.
And I am going to turn it back over to Recreation Manager Christine Crosby for some updates.
All right, thank you, John. So one of the updates that I was going to highlight, John touched upon it earlier, but I will rehash it, which is the pickleball pilot program. Due to the weather, as well as a striking mishap on 3 of the pickleball courts, we are looking to extend the pilot program through roughly July to give us a better idea of the usage of the courts and be able to monitor it. I mentioned that 3 of the courts, the lines may not have been striped appropriately. They were off by a decent amount. And so we are working with the vendor to have them redone next week. And so we'll be putting out court noticing to let our users know that those courts will be closed for a day or 2 until the paint is re-dried, and they'll be back open for play. So we were happy that we were able to get that fixed. It was discovered in December, but obviously since the weather, we've had to wait until we've had a dry patch in order to fix it. Very excited about that. We have observed some usage on the pickleball courts on the few days that we've had that have been dry. And so it's been great to see that space activated. Last month, you received an update on our teen programs from Lauren Eck, one of our recreation coordinators. She just put a whole bunch of college tours on my calendar. I will not be going on them, but I know about them. And the first one is coming up this February. That we have, I believe, 2 in February and 2 in April, and trying to provide as many opportunities to take teens to a college, but also pairing it with a fun activity, like going to a football game or a local attraction nearby. My last update, it may be a quiet time for recreation. When is it quiet? We have like very small windows of quiet, but our staff have been working diligently on our busy season, which is spring and summer. And so right now we're putting our final touches on the spring and summer activity guide. It is probably our largest activity guide. This will be the largest activity guide we have ever put together. So very excited about that. It should be out and in your mailbox in February. We'll be doing our summer camp fair on February 25th, which is a great opportunity for families to come ask questions, be prepared for registration, which will begin on March 5th for Mountain View residents. So we're putting all those details together for all the programs that will be taking place April through August. So that is my update this evening. Thank you.
And my final item is just to talk about the next meeting. So it's a full agenda. We talked about some of the items already, bringing the shoreline wildlife management plan forward. We will have a discussion regarding the biodiversity and urban forest plan, get an update on where SFEI is currently. We will talk about with Public Works, we'll bring forward the Plymouth and Space Parkway realignment project. That has to do with tree mitigation to bring those 2 streets and align them into one intersection. And so it's bringing forward the mitigation plan and getting input from you as the Parks and Recreation Commission and Urban Forest Board. And our next meeting again is going to be postponed by a week to February 15th, of which will be our first in-person meeting since the pandemic started. So looking forward to seeing all of you in person. We will be in the Redwood Hall. That's going to give us the most amount of space to spread out, not only amongst yourselves, but also for the public that would like to attend. And so this is going to be an in-person meeting. At the moment, we do not have the hybrid model set up, and we're looking, we'll have to wait until that is available, but we will be in person and available for the public to come and participate. So thank you, Chair Felios.
Well, thank you for the very good report out of all of you. And I just want to also, moving forward on this in-person meeting, encourage the public, if they can't join us in person, to please email us. Allison does a wonderful job of getting us the emails that are provided so that we know how the public feels on many items when they can't attend. And I realize it might be a burden for some people to get to an in-person meeting. And until we have the hybrid model, we certainly want to welcome the public into providing us with some email opinions and or suggestions. So, well, without if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:29 p.m. and look forward to seeing you all. Oh, I'm sorry, Sandy. You have your hand up.
Sorry to sneak this in. I just wanted to say I'm very sad that I will not be able to attend the next meeting. I'm going to be 10 time zones away at that time, so I don't think any teleconferencing would be feasible. And I'm sure going to be a really great packed agenda, and I think I'll try to review things and submit some written comments or questions ahead of time so that I can get my 10 cents in. So I'll miss seeing all of you in person for the first time, but I'll be back and ready to go in March.
You will be missed, but we look forward to your comments when you go over the things. So
thank you.
All right. Without further ado, then at 8:30, we'll adjourn the meeting and we'll see each other in February. Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Thanks, everybody.